The storm began as Rebecca Lynn Hart stepped off the train. The platform was empty, the air unusually still. Her coat clung to her damp shoulders as she scanned the village. A cab waited at the bottom of the hill, engine idling, the driver hidden behind a fogged window. Not surprised, just sad. He asked quietly. She handed him the printed confirmation. Hillshade Inn. Room 8. He looked at her. Rebecca nodded. Booked it last week. The man stared up the winding road. Nobody stays there anymore. The ride took half an hour through narrowing roads, past trees that pressed close. The lobby smelled of old wood and something faintly sweet. Candles burned on a side table. A guest book sat open, but the last entry was dated 10 years ago. The headlights barely pierced the mist. When they reached the top, the inn loomed above them, Victorian, worn, silent. Rebecca stepped out, and the cab pulled away without another word. A large mirror hung above the dresser, framed in black wood. The inn's front door creaked as she pushed it open. A woman in red walked into a lake and never came out. A woman appeared at the top of the stairs, tall, pale, dressed in red. Room 8, she asked. Rebecca nodded. When she looked back, the reflection had caught up. Only the woman in red who appeared and disappeared without sound. No number. Some rooms do not like visitors, she said. Locked her own face. The woman smiled. We have been expecting you. The candle flickered as if in a slow wind, but the air was still. The mirror no longer showed her reflection. Only the garden and that new statue forming. Her statue. The thought made her knees buckle, and she collapsed against the bed frame. You asked to stay, she said softly. Room 8 remembers. She handed over a brass key. Top of the stairs, end of the hall. Do not wander at night. She crawled toward the armoire, pulling it open. The red dresses had returned, only now they seemed older, brittle, and covered in dust. A ceiling of souls. Guests who wandered the halls too long were claimed. They became caretakers, statues, or worse. On the top shelf, tucked behind a pair of gloves, she found a leather-bound journal. At the bottom of the stairs, she found a corridor lined with doors. Each door had a number. Each number matched a room upstairs. The pages were stiff and smelled of mold, but the ink was legible. Inside was a bed, untouched, and a desk with a cracked photograph on it. A man, smiling, holding a suitcase. Below, a name. Edward Green. Checked in, never checked out. A name on the first page. Margaret Hollow. It groaned under the pressure and swung open, revealing a narrow staircase spiraling down into darkness. Rebecca frowned. Excuse me, but the woman had already vanished behind the velvet curtain, cleaned a bit dusty. The window faced the overgrown garden, where a stone fountain dripped slowly. Only mirrors, dozens of them, all pointed inward. In the center, a chair. Rebecca approached slowly. Room 8 was warm. Rebecca set her bag down and sat on the edge of the bed. The silence felt alive, but the tone shifted within weeks. Guests went missing. Nightmares plagued everyone. The hills, she wrote, whispered to her. No staff, no guests, told her secrets, promised her life beyond death, if she would keep them fed. That night, she dreamed of water. The founder of the inn, the woman in red. The next morning, Rebecca wandered the halls. People drowning, mirrors cracking, someone whispering her name. The mirror in her room had changed. It now reflected her standing in the garden, but she was not She turned away. Each night, the dreams grew worse. She found a door near the end of the hall. The woman in red saw her trying it. Rebecca returned to room 8. The mirror showed the garden again. A statue had appeared in the reflection. A woman kneeling. One final entry, written in a different hand, described a ritual. She ran downstairs, demanded to leave, but the front door was gone. In its place, another mirror. The woman in red stood beside it. Rebecca stood frozen in the center of room 8. Her breath steamed in the cold air, though no windows were open. She was not ready to give up. The stone under her feet felt damp, and water dripped from the ceiling. Margaret Hollow. The entries began normally, describing the construction of the inn, her dream of a sanctuary for weary travelers. Rebecca read until her hands trembled. Rebecca dropped the book and looked back at the mirror. The statue was almost complete. She backed away, and her shoulder bumped the wall. She had no choice. She lit a second candle from the wall and descended. The air grew colder with each step. She approached room 1. She opened other doors. More rooms, more photographs, more names. Each room was a prison for a soul lost to the house. Then she came to room 8. It was her room, but this one was different. There were no furnishings. The mirrors showed different faces. Women, men, all screaming, all trapped. She saw herself among them. The candle flickered violently. A low voice whispered from every direction. A soft scraping sound echoed through the mirror chamber. One of the reflections moved on its own. It smiled. Sit. Rebecca backed away. Sit or stay forever. She turned to run, but the door slammed shut behind her. The other doors opened as she passed. Shadows followed. Whispers chased her. Not Rebecca. It stepped out of the mirror and into the room. Rebecca screamed and hurled the candle at it. The flame burst across the floor, lighting the dry wood. The mirrors shattered. The room filled with smoke. The fire spread quickly. She kicked at the door until it gave way, and she ran back through the corridor. She reached the stairs and climbed 2 at a time. Smoke rolled through the halls like fog, thick and hot. Flames consumed the paintings. The caretaker stood in the main room, watching the fire calmly. The inn was burning. You were not supposed to fight it, she said. She had simply appeared at the station. I do not belong to this house. Rebecca coughed. No. You belong to the hills. Rebecca shoved past her and burst through the front door. Rain fell hard, cold. The fire hissed behind her. No screams, no ruins, no smoke, no stone. The path stopped at a circle of dead trees. No collapse, just fire, contained as if the house allowed it. She ran down the hill, through the trees, stumbling over roots and rocks. Behind her, the inn burned silently. She tried to speak, but her voice was gone. He called for the doctor. For days, she lay in a small room in the village infirmary. Fevered mumbling. She made it to the village by morning. Locals refused to speak of it, though hikers sometimes claimed they heard a piano playing in the woods, or saw a flicker of candlelight through thick fog at twilight. His specialty was exploring abandoned sites with ghostly reputations, and the story of Room 8 had haunted online forums for years. The villagers warned him not to go, but Jordan laughed it off. He followed an old path that now wound through overgrown thickets. His boots crunched dead leaves as he moved deeper into the hills. Skeptical and ambitious, he believed it was all fiction born from rural boredom. Still, Something about the missing woman from decades ago intrigued him. The station master found her curled on the platform, soaked and shaking. When she finally came to, the nurse handed her a parcel. Her clothes, her things, recovered from room 8. The inn had not burned, the nurse said. Rebecca shook her head, lips trembling. She demanded a ride back up the mountain. Reluctantly, they gave her a horse. She found the road, climbed it, but where the inn had been, there was only forest. In the center stood a mirror. Her reflection was not there. Instead, it showed the caretaker in red, standing beside a statue. Rebecca's statue. She reached toward the glass. It was warm. From the village below, the train station sat quiet. The cab driver lit a cigarette and looked toward the hills. He checked his watch. Rebecca Lynn Hart. Checked in, never checked out. 23 years passed. The legend of the Hillshade Inn faded into whispers. In 2023, a documentary filmmaker named Jordan Keene arrived in the village. He set out one morning with a drone, cameras, and an audio recorder. After 2 hours, he found it. Not the inn, but the clearing. The circle of dead trees stood like forgotten sentinels. In the center, half buried under moss and earth, was a large piece of cracked glass. He knelt beside it. His fingers brushed the surface. Cold. Much colder than the air. As he stood, his camera battery died. So did his phone. The drone refused to connect. The forest grew quiet. No birds. No wind. Only the rustling of his own breath. Then he heard a voice behind him. "You should not be here." Jordan spun around. A woman in a long red coat stood at the edge of the clearing. Her face was pale, ageless, eyes like carved stone. "I am sorry. I thought this place was abandoned." "It is not abandoned," she said softly. "It is sleeping." He stepped back. "Are you the caretaker?" "No." That was Rebecca's title. Her lips curled into a slow smile. Jordan froze. "Rebecca Lynn Hart. She watches now. All the guests do." He glanced at the mirror. His reflection was missing. In its place stood Rebecca, her face pressed against the inside of the glass, mouth open in a silent scream. Behind her were dozens of others. Children, adults, all watching. "I have to go," Jordan said. "You already arrived," the woman replied. "That is the only part that matters." Jordan turned and ran. The path twisted behind him, now unfamiliar. Trees shifted, bending toward him. Whispers tickled his ears. He stumbled into a dry creek bed and followed it blindly. Hours passed. When he reached the village, night had fallen. He burst into the pub, dirt covered and wide-eyed. The barkeep looked up and nodded grimly. "So, you found room 8, he said. Jordan nodded slowly. "I did." The barkeep poured him a drink and slid it across the bar. "You will not be able to forget it now." Jordan looked into the glass. For a moment, he swore he saw Rebecca's eyes staring back at him. Then the reflection was his again, but he no longer trusted it. He would return home. He would edit the footage. He would upload it, but he would never sleep through the night again. And in a quiet forest on a nameless hill, the glass beneath the moss shimmered, waiting for the next guest to arrive.